Ooh. Okay, welcome back to my channel. For people who haven't seen any of my stuff before, this is basically mine, an expat's, a British guy's musings, experiences, thoughts on his life living here in Saudi Arabia. So I've been here for 2.5 years, so I've seen an awful lot. Good, bad, the ugly. So this video, which title is a work in progress, but is around the changes and misconceptions around life here in Saudi Arabia. So I'm doing this really to calm, settle, ease any nerves you might have, because yeah, if you're watching, you're obviously thinking about making the leap on coming out here. I think people generally have a considerable amount of misconceptions coming out here. I mean, I know I totally did. It all started off with my dad saying, "Why the fuck do you want to go there?" He couldn't have been more wrong. And I think the West does a very bad job of portraying what life is like out here. Stuff you find online is outdated, old, and not really relevant. So I want to change that. I mean, generally, life, like anywhere, is pretty routine, boring, uninteresting at times. And so I think when it comes to media in particular, or sort of people blogging, whatever about it, is that side, or the excitement doesn't necessarily come across a lot of the time, just more of the negative stuff. I find I get asked quite a few questions around what it's like for girlfriend, boyfriend being here, generally what kind of stuff there is to do, things about, restrictions and religious police, all that kind of stuff. And so over this series, whatever you want to call it, I want to dispel, affirm, reaffirm some of those thoughts. And for me, I'm so grateful for anyone who sort of writes me, who messages me asking questions or saying, "Thank you, you sort of, you gave me such a better insight," or "I kind of feel settled now coming over." And actually I was at the F1 at the weekend, and this gentleman and his son, a guy called Marcus, came up to me. So Marcus, if you're watching, thank you so much, it means so much to me. And yeah, he came over saying that basically he had seen my beach video, and that was one of the deciding factors for coming here. So it's so nice to be able to make an impact on that, and thankfully, fortunately, he's really enjoying his time here. And I think when we talk about change in Saudi Arabia, you can't really talk about it if you don't mention MBS, who is the crown prince here. So if you come here, you'll see him absolutely everywhere, plastered, billboards, posters, TV, whatever. And that's Mohammed bin Salman, MBS. I was at the F1, and there was a moment where, Lewis Hamilton was going past, Verstappen was going past, amazing, qualifying, whatever. No one had their phones out, they were just watching, enjoying. And the moment MBS came out and he was walking through the pits, everyone had their phones out, they were recording, they were amazed, and he's almost got this celebrity-like status. And for me, being a Westerner, growing up in the UK, a Prime Minister would never get that attention. Let alone not be heckled or whatever it might be. And so I asked a couple friends here, and they were saying, MBS is such a man of the people. He has sort of enacted so much change, which has transformed the lives of some of the people here, everyone here, in fact, whether that's sort of women, younger people, older generations, whatever it might be. There's not one thing a Prime Minister can do in the UK which is going to affect you, on a day-to-day level. They might raise the taxes, they might do something like that, and you just kind of get on with it. But there's nothing so major like what MBS has been doing, which is so transformative to people's lives. And some of that I will touch on in this video today. And I think the key thing is, it's all about unlocking yourself or themselves, or however you want to see it, unlocking the people from tradition, and tradition that isn't necessarily serving in today's modern culture. And you'll understand what I mean through this as I touch on various different changes that I've witnessed, things that I've witnessed here in the kingdom. The first one, which baffled me when I first arrived, was restaurants, cafes. They all had families and singles. The restaurant cafe was divided. And so families, being men, women, couples, together as a group, kids obviously, and then singles was just an area for men. like men by themselves, and you kind of walk into a place and you don't really know which floor you're going to or which section you need to go to. You know, you're used to going into a cafe and just finding a table and sitting down, but here you actually had to genuinely consider, okay, like I'm by myself as a man, where am I going? Or I'm with a friend, female, where am I going? This is one thing that now has been totally, you know, it's not a mandatory. So it's up to the manager's discretion, I believe. But ultimately now it's free reign. So you can go in, sit anywhere with anyone. And secondly, what was it, 2018, 2019, women were allowed to drive. I'm not gonna go too much into the women's rights and that side of things because I'm not best placed to talk about it, but you know, from a point of view of women constantly being under, you know, the thumb or under the power of their guardian, parent, or husband, this was an absolutely huge step. And I think alongside this, women don't need their parent, guardian, husband's permission, approval to actually leave the country. So before, if a female wanted to do that, they would have to get approval from whoever, you know, theoretically owned them, which, you know, for us being out in the West is kind of shocking, but that's obviously the way it has been. One of the biggest adjustments I had to make was all around prayer times. So there's 5 prayers during the day. You know, one early morning, one sort of midday, 1, 3, 6, and sort of 7, 8-ish. During these times, all shops, everything closed for 30 to 45 minutes to obviously allow employees to pray. So what that means is your day is often between, you know, do I go to the cafe? No, I've got 10 minutes before prayer time, never gonna make it. Do I go grocery shopping now? If I'm in there, they're going to pack up and the cashier's not going to be at the fucking till, so I'm just going to have to wait around. So you would literally live your life by prayer times, which obviously for Christian / atheist is a totally new thing. So now what they've actually done is it's not mandatory to close shop at that time, so people can carry on working. But that is the, you know, the discretion of the guys in charge, the managers. One of the things that helped me most was this app called Afan, and this gives you all the prayer times. So what actually happens is it will tell you when prayer time is. Oh, it's just come to Asr, so that's the 3:21 prayer. But yeah, when I'm at home, London, whatever, and my prayer times go off audibly, friends are like, what? Have you converted? Do you need to tell us something? No, it is changing here. So I think it's obviously becoming much more appealing or potentially less intimidating to Westerners. I think one of the most recent things is that they have actually turned down the volume of the loudspeakers for the call to prayer. So obviously because there's loads of mosques everywhere, when it's prayer time, someone gets on a loudspeaker and calls people to prayer. That is very loud. That would always wake me up at about 5:30 in the morning without fail, because I was literally positioned between two. So that got me. But now it's sort of residing a little bit more in the background of things. One other thing that took some getting used to was, believe it or not, shorts. You genuinely can't do anything here, or you couldn't do anything here if you were wearing shorts. You couldn't go to the bank, you couldn't go to the mall, you couldn't go grocery shopping, some shops, cafes, they wouldn't let you in. The reason being is, I think, I might be wrong, when you go to pray, you have to have sort of trousers, garments which cover your knees, so hence everyone's in trousers. There was actually this one moment, probably the most intimidating time I've had here, whereby I was in a Starbucks. The barista came up to me and said, excuse me, the guy who was just sat next to you just told me he took a picture of you and sent it to the government. Naturally, you're like, what the fuck? How, why, when? And the barista said, you know, he told me if I serve you again, he will get me fired. At which point you had about 5 people who were obviously listening in, eavesdropping, being like, man, fuck that man, he was old. And basically, you know, things are changing, laws are changing, and you don't need to, especially being a foreigner, be so strict with them on these kind of things. Whilst it is tentatively changing, like the amount of times I've been turned away from a mall because I'm in shorts. But now that's changing. So I think, with the introduction of, international events, people coming in, they can't be that strict. My advice to you is always pack a spare pair of trousers. Put it in your car, the boot of your car, your backpack, whatever, just in case. And the whole thing about shorts is it comes from this thing around public decency. So if you're coming to Saudi, you should be aware of this. So it's this thing called the public decency guidelines, essentially, and you can see it at visitsaudi.com. It's on there, but it's just all of these violations that will give you a fine. So things like playing music at a high volume in your car or sort of at home, playing music during prayer time, that's a big no-no. Things like wearing underwear or sleepwear, including slippers outside, is a no-no. Wearing improper clothing, so that's what that guy was talking about with me, is the shorts. For women, it's a lot more, or it's getting a lot more liberal or less restrictive, depending how you look at it, whereby a woman can cover her shoulders, obviously limit what's shown with the cleavage, and loose jeans or trousers can be worn. So it doesn't have to be abaya, covered up, can't see anything. You can just be more respectable in what you wear. Don't sort of show all your curves or show too much skin. Saudi's getting there. It's not there yet. Small baby steps. It's a vast difference to what it was when I first came here. And you actually double take now when people don't wear an abaya or are wearing shorts in a mall, because it's like, what the actual fuck? This isn't fair. I've had to go through it. It's changing. Another one is taking pictures or videos of people without their permission. So if you do come here, just be mindful of that. Don't, if you're going to do it discreetly, but don't overtly do it as if, if someone sees, they can call the police on you. You can get, I think it was a 1,000 SAR fine, which is about 200 quid. And then, they make you delete it. They go through your phone, make sure you haven't taken anything else, your social medias. They make you re-download fucking Snapchat again to see if you actually have an account and you've put anything on there. So shit like that happens, and the best thing is just be a decent human being, really. And the last one, which isn't necessarily changing at the moment, but I think it will change in the next couple of years, is around alcohol. Everything I'm about to say here is hearsay, is what I've heard. It is, I've never partaken in any of this. The, alcohol, Westerners are used to it. I personally, can take it or leave it. I don't really drink, even when I'm back home. Unless it's a session and I'm out. As with anything, where there's demand, there's always going to be a supply. It does come in. I've heard about it. I've sort of, know people who have been involved with it, shall we say. But you can actually buy it here, obviously illegally. But to give you a bit of perspective, it is, for a bottle of, say, Smirnoff, it is 1,500 SAR, which equates to around £300. You can either spend £20 on it at home, or you can spend £300 for the same thing. It's kind of like, what the fuck is the point? Along with this, there's a massive market for home brew. So basically people making it at home, making it sort of in their kitchen or a sort of utility room or something, and that's like wine, beer, whiskey, rum, whatever it is. But as I said, I've only heard whispers through the grapevine about this kind of stuff. So that is just about it of what has changed in the last few years of me being here. It doesn't, or it might not sound like a lot, but speaking to people here, it is fucking huge. No doubt if Corona didn't happen, or if it would have just go, even more stuff would change or would have changed. But I think, if you're on the fence about coming to Saudi, ping me a message, ask a question, look at my videos, it's all in there. But no, honestly, please do give me a shout, because I'm more than happy to talk through, chat through, get rid of any misconceptions you might have, or generally just give you some advice. But I think mainly it's all around where you live, who your network is, what your job is, who you're working with there, and those are the three main points. Because if any of those is off, you're probably going to have a bit of a shit time. It is a leap. It is a daunting, scary leap, but in terms of Saudi in the next, 2, 5, 10 years, it's going to be vastly different, and it's going to be an absolute incredible place to live. And for me, you know, I'm looking at being here for 5+ years, so I have no idea what the future holds. Don't want to go back to London, but I know my plan is to stay here. I really enjoy it, as you may have noticed. There's always going to be shit that you have to put up with. Thank you so much for listening, for watching, if you've made it through to the end. And please drop me a comment or share it with anyone who you might feel could use it, would be interested in it. So thank you again, and I'll see you on the next one.